Norscan Tribes. Certainly, there are conflicting views about the Norsemen. On the one hand, they are merchants and traders, interested in dealing fairly with their neighbors. But, on the other hand, they are fierce and bellicose people who raid and steal as they like, extorting gold and silver for not sacking our coastal communities. The reason for this somewhat contradictory nature is that Norsemen, though mostly of similar form and appearance, are not just a single people, but rather consist of many tribes, and their attitudes differ a great deal between each tribe. To comprehend the Norsemen character, one must first understand who they are, where they live, and the fundamental motivations of the Norsemen people. From Xavier Pfaff, a Middenheim historian. The Norscans, as a single, cohesive people, do not exist. Indeed, the very term Norscan is an imperial labeling. They are instead divided into various, numerous tribal confederations that are as much at war with each other as they are with the Kurgan and Hung tribes to the east, or the Empire to the south. These various Norse tribes are often nations unto themselves, possessing varying pantheons of gods, traditions, heroes, and tribal dialects. Those tribes living within the northern reaches of Norska are often fierce worshippers of chaos, and are the most common to take part in the Chaos God's wars upon the civilized world. The southern tribes are somewhat milder than their northern counterparts. While they raid and plunder just as much as the rest of their kin, it is from these tribes that the ideals of trade and cooperation have begun to take root, albeit shakily. When not waging war against the southern realms, these tribes often trade exotic furs, metals, and their service as mercenaries to employers in cities such as Marienburg. However, all Norse are united by a shared ancestry and a mutual veneration of the four dark lords of chaos, and as such, when the gods speak and command war to be made against the Empire, the southern tribes take up the call as readily as their more northerly kinsmen. To refuse the call of the gods is the greatest dishonor a tribe can bring unto itself, and is often seen by other Norskans as grounds for annihilation. The most numerous of the Norscan tribes are as follows: the Acelings, the Greylings, the Vargs, the Zals, the Bjornlings, the Scalings, and the Bersonlings. There are also lesser tribes comprising them, such as the Gore-Hunt, the Snegger, the Swordsvinner, the Iron Pelt, the Brenuns, the Crow Brothers, the Wolf Claw, the Storm Ravens, the Worm Kin, the Kin Slayers, the Beast Flayers, the Black Axes, the Fjordlings, and so on. The tribe forms the very core of Norscan identity. A Norseman will never identify himself as such. He will instead identify himself based on his tribal lineage. For instance, an Aceling will always think of himself as an Aceling, for their only loyalty is to their family, kinsmen, and to the dark gods. Being divided into countless tribal affiliations, there exist many important differences that mark each tribe as being unique. with particular customs and beliefs that serve to set them apart from other men of their country. For instance, one particular clan of Scalings may dress in cloaks of bear skin and reindeer hide, and paint over their steel armor with blood, and grip mighty axes and spears in honor of corn. On the other hand, a tribe of Acelings may be dressed in checkered surcoats and wear brass-studded collars while wielding brutal long axes in honor of the same deity. Norscan warriors are thus as diverse as they are lethal.
Norscan Society.
Norscan Society is comprised of distinct tribes that venerate their ancestors and their respective visions of the Chaos Gods. Yet, nonetheless, each tribe is stratified along similar social structures. The Norse tribes are each ruled by a king who distributes hunting grounds and territory to his lords, who are known as Jarls. The Jarls, in turn, bestow gifts and favor upon their sworn warriors, who are known as bondsmen. Warriors occupy the most vaunted and esteemed place in Norse society, due to the warlike mien of the northern tribes and their insatiable lust for blood. The rest of Norscan society consists of the elderly, though it is quite common for elder warriors to command immense respect among their fellow tribesmen, due to their renown and experience in combat. The infirm and the women. At the very bottom rung of Norscan society lie the thralls, slaves taken in raids for use as menial labor, as consorts, and worse, as sacrifices to appease the dark hunger of the Chaos Gods. The most powerful and fearsome of Norsemen are the Dark Kings of this wild land. Most kings begin their careers as Jarls, but occasionally one can inherit the title from his father. There is a divide in the methods of royal succession between the northern and southern parts of Norska. In the north, kings are invariably victors of blood-drenched trials by combat, where all claimants battle each other in order to determine who among them is the greatest warrior and most favored by the Dark Gods. In the south, however, the transition of power is generally somewhat smoother, but still fraught with violence, as the new king must still slay his rivals in combat to ensure his power and prove his worthiness before both the gods and his kinsmen. All kings of Norska bear upon them marks of the Dark Gods, indicating outwardly that they have been blessed by their patron deities with incredible power and might. These marks are also an indication of the king's right to rule, for he must have already proven himself as a mighty warlord in order to attract the eyes of the gods in such a profound way. Celebrated Chaos Champions, the kings of Norska are amongst the most deadly warriors in the entire world, and prove the legends of their dark might in war time and time again. At times, certain exceptionally powerful kings can rise to unite multiple tribes or even all of Norska under their banners. This individual is known as the High King. To date, there have only been a small number of individuals with the sheer strength and will required to become High Kings, such as High King Ormgard, High King Valmir Aisling, and High King Eric Redax. Next up, the Jarls. Jarls are powerful chieftains loyal to their tribal kings. In exchange for their oaths of fealty and friendship, the king grants his Jarls hunting grounds, warriors, thralls, and treasures. Jarls are the absolute masters of their lands, but are expected to be subservient to their kings, who tend to punish disobedience with swift and terrible retribution. When the winds of war blow, a Jarl is bound by oath and honor to come to the aid of his king and lend his warriors to the cause. Should a king die without an heir to succeed him, the Jarls will invariably fight a savage contest to determine who shall succeed him. Whilst it is expected that Jarls are utterly loyal to the monarchs, it is also expected that in times of weak leaders, that a strong Jarl will slay his lord and take the throne of the tribe for himself. This is a risky act in the best of times, however, for such a coup is likely to invite retribution from the king's followers, particularly his sons, who are expected to take brutal vengeance upon their father's murderers. Many Jarls tend to be chaos champions of a certain type, being often afflicted with mutations and enhancements that show that they have the favor of the Dark Gods. Though they are generally not as individually deadly as kings, Jarls are nonetheless terrifying forces on the battlefield. There also exist among Jarls highly powerful and exceptional individuals known as High Jarls, powerful champions and warlords who rule over large and powerful cities of the north. They command massive armies, able to bring to bear thousands of warriors and savage beasts culled from the darkest nightmares. Only one High Jarl is known, Egil Styrbjorn, champion of Korn and High Jarl of the scaling city of Strovengard. The gods compel us to murder, but I do it freely. From a Norscan. The Norscans are a warrior race of the highest caliber, and so it is unsurprising that warriors form the vast majority of the Norscan tribes. While all Norscans are skilled to at least some extent in warcraft, becoming a true warrior in Norsca is a far more complicated affair than in other lands. Anyone can take up a blade and fight, but to be able to truly call oneself a warrior, a free man must undertake special rites of passage. Different tribes have different rites. Some require 3 tests: the test of strength, the test of skill, and the test of courage. Others may send out candidates armed only with a spear in order to slay dreaded beasts, such as trolls, chaos spawn, demons, or Ymir. Some clans erect a fake village and populate it with thralls armed with shields and clubs. The aspiring warrior must then raid the village, slaying all within in order to recover a prize such as gold, meat, ale, or a buxom female thrall. Jarls and champions attract warriors to their bands by dint of their personal strength and reputation as undefeated war leaders. Generally speaking, a Norseman must make blood oaths of loyalty to the chieftain, and from then on does the warrior take his place in the warband's battle line, sharing in the glorious bloodshed and death that often follows. In return, these warriors receive their share of the rewards that follows a successful battle, and receives his pick of weapons from the warband's mound of blades. Other such gifts our warrior may receive include arm rings, Chaos Dwarf forged armor, and, of course, thralls. A warrior's life is often brief, but it is always exciting. Between raids and invasions, warriors provide meat for their clan by hunting the savage, tainted beasts of Norsca. They gain further prestige when they return with the slaughtered carcass of a Chaos Spawn, Beast Man, Ice Drake, or some massive shark pulled from the seas. In times of war, they clamber onto the wolf ships, bravely setting off for whatever battlefield awaits them, knowing that their destiny is at hand. From their exploits, they take up various titles and names reflecting their personal attributes and triumphs, such as Red Axe, the Wanderer, the Slayer of Souls, the Geld Prince, and so forth. The greatest of Norscan warriors often ascend to become Chaos Warriors or Huskarls, warriors who have emerged from the unholy perils of the realm of chaos as beings far greater than their fellow clansmen. Hand-picked by the Jarls and holding immense authority among the tribes, they are the ultimate warriors, chosen to be the personal guard to warlords and chieftains. Brave heroes all. For these champions there are but three fates: to die in glorious battle against the enemies of their gods and tribes, to become overcome with the chaos power flowing through them and evolving into Weirs, Chaos Spawn, or to overcome all obstacles put before them and ascend to sit at the right hand of their gods, blessed with eternal power and everlasting life. The Chaos Warriors are the greatest of all the fighters of Norsca. Raised from strong Norseman stock, their skills honed over the years by constant battle amongst themselves and against other races. Their strength infernal and their bodies hardened like steel, and stand a head taller than their fellow tribesmen. Grim, silent figures, their natural northern constitution is bolstered by demonic favor, allowing them to trudge through the direst of blizzards and densest of forests. When roused for battle, the champions of Norsca are roaring, unstoppable forces. Arrows and bolts clatter piteously from his hell-forged plate as they stride into the enemy ranks. The thrusts of southern spears and halberds are deflected contemptuously, and the lifeblood of their foes splatters against his barbarous armor as his battle-axe rises and falls in gory arcs. More favored than even the Huskarls are the Chosen of Chaos, whom the gods have personally marked out for greatness. Physical manifestations of the power of the gods, the Chosen are unto the Chaos Warriors as the Chaos Warriors are unto normal Norsemen, their bodies warped and strengthened by the dark blessings of chaos, causing them to manifest even fouler mutations than their brothers in arms, such as wolf-like fangs and many other such alterations. The warriors of chaos who choose to leave their tribes gather together into warbands led by such heroes. These sword bands roam and sail the length and breadth of the known world, butchering and pillaging, fighting rival warbands in blood feuds to prove their worthiness to the gods. Heroes who command such a following are rightfully legendary. Figures such as Wulfric the Wanderer, Falgar the Butcher, Haka the Aceling, Einar Steelfist, and Gamra Hravotnir, figures of unsurpassed fighting prowess and iron-hard discipline. Indeed, it is often said in the Norselands that the chosen champions of the gods have but one vice: cruelty to their foes. When not hunting or raiding, warriors enjoy the finer aspects of Norse life. They spend their time in the sweat lodges, swapping tales of their savage exploits and making grand boasts of their fighting prowess. At night, they engage in grand drinking contests from which they gain new and evocative titles such as Ale Spew, Rock Sun, and the Glutton, to name but a possible few. As Norsemen are often unforgivable braggarts and competitors, they will often perform all sorts of insane feats to outdo their rivals. Sometimes these games of one-upmanship can lead to physical contests to decide who is greater, such as arm wrestling, knife fighting, brawling, and dueling. These fights are rarely lethal, however, since to slay a fellow tribesman in times of peace is a grave crime likely to give rise to blood feuds and revenge killings, as well as the paying of wergild in order to contain the aforementioned. To the outsider, Norse warriors are all the same, bloodthirsty bands of savage marauders. But there are nonetheless distinctions amongst the various clans. Loyalty to a particular jarl engenders all sorts of peculiarities that his bonded warriors embrace. For instance, if a jarl is a champion of corn, then his warriors are likely to dress in red or black and work the skull rune into their shields and armor. Another example could be of warriors who only fight with a particular type of axe, or who use shields whose edges have been sharpened to a razor's edge. Others may be incredible leapers, while others may only armor their fronts so that they can never retreat from a battle. Unusual haircuts, top knots, braids, beard, or even, extremely rarely, lack of beard altogether characterize differing groups of Norskans. Norskans who lack skill or ability at arms are a minority amongst such a fierce people and fill a low place in society as a whole. Reviled as weak and inferior, they are relegated to serving the jarls, tending their fields and overseeing the thralls. Though they do not have the prestige of warriors, it is understood that without them, Norska would surely die. Nevertheless, carls are free men, not servile as thralls are. It is entirely normal for them to own their own land and ascend to the ranks of a tribe's warrior if they prove themselves worthy. They are not an oppressed underclass by any means. Among the most wretched of fates facing the inhabitants of the old world is a life of forced servitude, whether it is in the horrid mines of the Skaven, the opulent pleasure palaces of mighty Araby, or being subject to a life of fear and brutality as a thrall to a Jarl of Norsca. Each raid against the coastal settlements of the Empire and Bretonnia finds more people captured and brought back to a life of endless toil and service to their masters. Such thralls are not contained to the women and children who are captured, but also include warriors taken as prisoners on the field of battle. The treatment of thralls varies depending on the tribe. Sometimes thralls are used to aid shipbuilders in constructing the longships, or are set to work the frozen fields of various farmsteads. Other times, thralls are taken as a fourth or fifth wife, selected for their attractiveness rather than their station. But for most thralls, their fate is to be bloodily sacrificed in order to curry favor with the dark gods. When a new wolf ship is finished, the Norsemen line the approach to the sea with screaming slaves, to crush the life out of them as the warriors push the longship into the waters. Before a raid, a slave might be sacrificed in order to earn the blessings of Khorne for the battle ahead. His or her guts may then be flung into the ocean to appease the hunger of the demons of the waters, or his broken body may be tied to the mast to feed the hunger of the ravens and the other spirits of death. Seers kill thralls with impunity in order to fuel accursed magics, using the blood of innocents to conjure forth the demons of the other world, or to commune with the vengeful spirits of fallen warlords. Though some thralls may receive decent treatment in rare circumstances, most face a gruesome fate. Though Norse society is patriarchal, women have a stronger place in these lands than many might suspect. A woman may own property and can become a jarl if her husband dies and has no male offspring. It is up to the woman to decide whom she weds and if she divorces. Whilst women are expected to stay behind during raids and wars, it falls to them to protect the home. So most are competent, if not outright skilled warriors. The end.